What's up YouTube? Capital G here, talking about the Yu-Gi-Oh animated series, the anime Yugioh Arc-V, and why I love this show so much, despite the fact that I actually don't care too much for Yuya Sakaki as a character. The series lead, the protagonist, I just don't enjoy him at all, and obviously the show is not designed that way, but I'll go into that a little bit later in the video. So anyways, I don't really see that many YouTubers talk about the anime or reference it. I do try and reference the anime a lot just so, people know that I am actually watching it, because it's kind of weird. Like, I've been playing this game for like 15 years, and the anime is what largely got me into the card game to begin with, but for a very long period of time I just kind of ignored the anime. I didn't really watch it, didn't really think too much about it, even though I just heard so many ravings and ramblings about Yu-Gi-Oh 5D specifically, and how amazing that anime is and how many good things there are about it. But during the 5Ds era, the Zeal era, and the GX era, I pretty much just played the game and I didn't really think too much about the anime. And now watching this show, I really wish that I had, because for starters, there's a lot of clues and a lot of hints, a lot of tidbits of information that you won't get about the game and kind of how things are structured and the booster packs if you don't actually watch the anime. Like, I guess certain small things like Star Strike Blast and Absolute Power Force, if I'm not mistaken, those are attacks by like Jack Atlas's and Yusei Fudo's monsters in the Yu-Gi-Oh 5D's anime. And you get other little small tidbits, like you get to see monsters before they're released, obviously, even though sometimes they do have a habit of changing card effects. In some cases, I guess with like Asuka, they changed her mechanic completely. My understanding is that in GX, the Cyber Angels were like, they were fusion based, and now in Arc-V, they are ritual based. So basically, this is where I'm at in the show, where they reached the Exceed Dimension, and you would think that the show 100 episodes in would have plateaued, but it has actually gotten much better. The Synchro Dimension was a pretty cool experience. There were some things that I did like, some things that I didn't like. There were some characters that they introduced, I guess they brought back into the show, like Crow. Didn't really care for him that much. But then there were some other characters that they introduced in the Synchro Dimension, like Jack Atlas, who I just loved. I mean, the characters in Yu-Gi-Oh Arc-V, even if there's some of the old characters, it seems like they just have so much personality. You look at Jack Atlas, and the dude seems like he's almost got like this Vegeta complex, where he's just like, I am better than everybody. I'm the fucking king. He even tells Yuya multiple times when dueling him, you do not deserve to be on the same stage as me, kid. Like, he tells him he's gonna beat him, and I'm just like, wow, that overwhelming confidence, man. That is amazing. That makes an awesome character, and there are so many great characters overflowing with personality, like Sora and Shun. I think Shun is probably overall the best character in the entire show. And I don't usually watch a lot of animes where the series protagonist is like someone that I don't like. It depends. There are cases where an anime will have a character that's designed for you not to like them, or for them to be like a divisive character. Certain things like Death Note, where you're supposed to hate Light, or there are some series like Attack on Titan where I'm just like, okay, Eren is maybe the sixth like most interesting character on this series, but I can deal with that. And I think that's what's happening with Arc-V. I'm enjoying the show, even though I really don't like Yuya Sakaki. I kind of thought that the story of the Yu-Gi-Oh animated series were going to kind of follow the main series. Again, I haven't seen any of the 3 series in the middle, so I pretty much just expected this show to be about, a kid who learns how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And then has to go into this big conflict to save the world. But it actually isn't really like that at all. I mean, I guess that eventually they kind of have to save the world, but there's so many different dark storylines here, and so many different characters who've been wronged and kind of hate the world, and everything is not rainbows and sunshine. It's actually a very dark series at certain points, or at least a lot of the characters are kind of like emotionally scarred, and they actually go into some pretty deep shit. Like in the Synchro Dimension you see right here, there's this scene with Crow, and the Synchro Dimension has parts that are pretty much like the fucking ghetto, and that's essentially where they are in the show. I also think that it's really cool how atmospheric the show can be at times. I don't know if the other series are like this. I would assume that they are, and eventually I am going to watch every single other Yu-Gi-Oh series so I can put together a whole bunch of top 10 lists. But there are moments in this show that I seriously go geeked out and I am like full weeaboo, because if you play the card game, I assume that you're going to enjoy the anime more. Like when the show first introduces Shun as a character and you get to see his dueling and you get to see, you know, some of the monsters that he uses. If you've ever wondered why there are so many damn Raid Raptor cards, it's because this guy right here on the anime plays Raid Raptors and he's a very popular character. So in his first duel, he ends up luring one of the LDS students, Masame, the Gem Knight girl, into a dark alley, and it's at night and you can feel it's very tense. You know, there are a whole bunch of crows on the buildings. It feels like something from like Batman or some shit like that. And she calls for backup and they're basically trying to do a 3v1. And obviously they got him pinned into a corner and he starts going into this huge speech about how beaten and oppressed that they are, but how they always fight back. And he's like, draw. And as soon as he draws like the card that he needs, all the freaking crows go, "Caw, caw," and they're all like buzzing around and everybody's like, what the hell's going on? Like, it's moments like that that make this show really, really hype when it wants to be. And that's like one of the reasons why I love this show. The show also has an amazing soundtrack. I've heard this about Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds as well, but like these songs are just good enough for you to walk around and just listen to. I don't even just mean the openings and the endings, which obviously, you know, Konami's going to put a lot of money into making sure that the show has good but like appealing openings for the audience, but just even like the themes, like the battle themes and some of the darker themes, they're really, really good. Speaking of the show's tone, I think that's something that Yu-Gi-Oh has always done pretty well, and this anime does that as well. Like, you know, the show starts out very lighthearted when they're in kind of the standard dimension, but when you start going into the other dimensions, you start seeing the truth of how these, you know, like societies actually are. The tone definitely shifts, and that's what I like. One of the things that drew me into Yu-Gi-Oh, as opposed to when I was playing Pokemon when I was like 12 and 11, is just that I was getting older and I wanted something a little more darker, and the show definitely hasn't lost its sense of darkness. I mean, this is a show that at times gets really sad, can get a little bit depressing, and I like that. Now let's go to Yuya Sakaki and why I just don't like this guy as a character. It's not that he's happy-go-lucky. Like, I understand that a lot of the protagonists, even if you go all the way back to Yugi, like they're going to be super happy. They're going to be very, very, you know, what's the word I'm looking, uplifting, and they're going to be very cheerful. But I think that Yuya takes it over the top. For starters, I think he's a very average duelist at best. I don't think he's like an actual great player. I think that he's like a character who has so much fucking plot armor on him that it's nearly impossible for him to lose. Mainly that has to do with the fact that he has the pendulum mechanic, and like 90% of the people that he duels against have no idea what the pendulum mechanic even is. You know, he duels against Kaito or he duels against like Aster, Edo Phoenix, and they're like, pendulum what? Like, what are you doing? Why are these cards going to the extra deck? Could you imagine, guys, to put it into context, could you imagine if you went to a regional tomorrow and you were the only person in the entire regional who had access to a specific summoning mechanic, and you were the only person who knew about the rules of this? In addition, you got to just run around and pick up like spell cards and activate them for free. Like, of course you'd fucking go undefeated, no duh. And I feel like that's generally how Yuya wins a lot of his duels, especially when they start dimension jumping and people don't even know of the pendulum summoning's existence. They're just like, I mean, they're at a huge deficit every time that they duel against Yuya, and I'm like, of course this dude's gonna freaking win. So I have found myself basically rooting against him. When he dueled Kaito, when he dueled Aster, I was like, please, for God's sakes, let this guy lose. My second reason that I really don't like Yuya that much as a character is I feel like he's preachy, and I feel like he takes his ideals and he tries to push them on to every single person that he comes in contact with. It's like essentially to him, if you're not dueling his way, if you don't believe in his way of dueling, then you're just wrong. And I think that that's just ignorant and just it's almost childish, to be honest. You know, Yuya believes in making, you know, people smile from dueling. He believes in entertainment duels, that dueling should be a way of entertaining people. It should be a way of making people smile. Basically what we do on my live stream, and that is absolutely great. But there are certain times in this show, like there are grudges between characters. There are times where, you know, like Yu-Gi-Oh is used for war, or dueling has been used for war, and every time that happens, basically Yuya speaks out against it. He's like, you're wrong, this is not how dueling should be, we should all hug and be friends and smile. And it's like, come on, bro. Like, seriously, when you look at some of the people in the XC, some of the XC users on the show, like this guy Yuto and Kaito and Shun, and what they've actually been through, it's like, ain't nobody trying to like really hear that bullshit, to be honest. It comes off as misogynistic, and I don't know, I feel like he's just a preachy, whiny baby of a character. This right here is a perfect example. This is Shun versus Sora, and in my opinion, still the best duel in the entire series. This is a duel where these dudes really hated each other to the fucking core. This is the definition of bad blood. These characters could not stand each other, and this was like some IRL, I will fucking shoot you if I see you type stuff. They turned a duel into a war zone. It was like literally a battle, and you know, Yuya, he pulls his typical, no everybody, don't fight, you know what I mean, please just hug each other and understand each other's feelings. And it's like, bro, ain't nobody got time for that. Could you just please give it a rest? Because Yuya tries to appease to everybody, and he tries to be everybody's friend, and he tries to, you know, connect with everybody. But there are a lot of times in this show where it's fully justified, like Kaito or Yuto or basically anybody from the XC dimension, for those characters to be completely hateful at the world, for them basically to just be mad at everyone. And I kind of like that. I mean, maybe as I've gotten older, I guess I kind of just like villains more, but I like a show that doesn't have to have every good character be a total fucking goody two shoes. Like, it's perfectly fine having some badasses in the show, and it feels like Yuya just kind of goes against everything that like being a badass or being kind of standoffish, you know, kind of goes for. Like Edo Phoenix, Aster Phoenix, from the little bit that I've seen of him, he seems kind of like an asshole, and I like that. People said that he was a little bit of an asshole in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Oh, by the way, this is a picture of when Shun was dueling against the 3 LDS students, and you see he summons, I think this is Rise Falcon, or this might be Blaze Falcon. Look, they ended up getting fucked up anyways. Like, it was really a great moment in the show. But anyways, I still do love the show. I mean, it's got great music. The duels are excellent. I think the duels they're a lot better if you actually watch if you play the card game, because I think there are certain times when monsters get summoned where you're like, oh shit, that's awesome. You know, when Yuto, the Phantom Knight guy, this guy right here, when he summons Dark Requiem Exceed Dragon, I was like, oh goodness, it's about to get real. The show also has a lot of different tones. I think I like them a lot. The show's gotten progressively better, and there's so much variety in this show. You know, they really make sure that they cover all the core mechanics. If you like Pendulum, if you like Fusion, Exceed, Synchro, me personally, I'm a Fusion guy. And, you know, this is not a show where I heard in Zexo, basically all they showed throughout the entire series were Exceed decks. And, you know, in this show, none of the major summoning mechanics, even Rituals, got a little bit of shine now that Asuka is in the show. None of the mechanics have gotten forgot about. You know, it even looks kind of cool the way that they're all summoned so differently. Whenever somebody fusion summons on the show, it's almost like they're praying and they like put their hands together. When somebody Exceed summons, they have to create the overlay network, and it looks like they're creating like a wormhole in space, and it just gives you a whole bunch of different variety. But anyways, guys, I just wanted to do a quick discussion on Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc-V, because currently I'm totally weebing out on this show. This show has been really good, and for anybody who just doesn't watch the anime, like, I implore you to check this show out, because it's actually extremely good. I was surprised by how much I found myself enjoying the show. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. As always, if you enjoyed the video or if you like Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc-V, give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you have not already.